Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast. Time to hashtag everything. We talk about all the fun, crazy stories on social media. From Instagram to Facebook, Twitter to Tumblr, or probably even Friendster. Join us each week as we explore the quirky side of social media. It's the Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast.
It's simple, such a sad song. The one that we rely on to get us.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Social Media News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Stacy.
And I am your co-host, Sarah.
And today we are talking about a number of firsts.
Oh.
So our first, yes, I did that.
I like it.
Our first is Beyonce at Coachella, or as it's now being called, Baychella.
Oh, good grief.
It feels like anything with Beyonce is just the internet. She will just destroy the internet one day. I'm convinced of it. Like if she ever announces like she's running for president or emperor of the universe, the internet will self-destruct.
Oh, yeah. Or I'm surprised we're not calling it the Baynernet. I mean, I don't even know how you would do that.
The B-net. I'm not sure what that would be either. But anyways, Beyonce headlined Coachella, and she's the first woman of color to ever headline Coachella.
Awesome.
And this performance, people just flipped their lid. Like it was a lot. And
her fans are rabid. I mean, she has got some supportive fans. Do not mess with them.
No, the Beehive will totally come after you.
Yes.
But if you did not see it, unfortunately, you kind of just have to find the mini videos that I'm sure her fans put out, because it was live streamed and then it was played on a loop the day after and then it was taken down.
Oh.
So there's no legal way to see it. And for her second weekend, they're not going to live stream it at all. So all you have left are the fan cams. But I did actually see a fan cam. And partly it was really cool, but at other parts, the person was definitely freaking out. So the camera shook like crazy. And
right.
I'm like, I can't focus.
I'm going to throw up.
What exactly is happening right now? I can't see. But this performance was a lot of things. So she starts by coming out just as Nefertiti, wow. And then transitions into... It's basically based off of college life at HBCUs. And for those who don't know, HBCUs are historically black colleges and universities, and they have a whole culture around them. So she's got a marching band and a lot of dancers, and the dancers, at several times she does this sort of, I have no other way to call it than like body call and response that you do see. Like if you ever saw the movie Drumline, you saw this a bit where the like lead dancer or the captain will do a bit of a dance routine and then all the other dancers follow her. And it's sort of exactly as it sounds, body call and response. And Beyonce did that with her dancers, where she would do something and then her dancers would do it after her.
Can I ask you a question? Do they wear pants at historically black colleges?
I mean, yes, but...
Sorry, it's such a signature look for Beyonce, the things that she wears, but you rarely see her in pants. She's always
right.
in the so I just thought I'd ask,
Well, it felt very much like similar to her Super Bowl performance, where the dancers were all in the black leotards with the black berets. This time they're all in yellow because I think that has again to do with Beehive and her fan club.
Sure.
But she also had a reunion with her Destiny's Child members, Kelly and Michelle.
Oh, cool. People
also completely freaked out about that.
Did they not know it was going to happen?
I'm sure it was probably hinted at, but I don't think it was officially said. And just when I was watching the fan cam, they come up sort of in smoke, so you don't quite see it at first. And then you see her with two women on the side of her, but you don't quite know who they are yet. And then the lights come up as the music plays and you can see it's them. And yeah, people lost their minds.
That's awesome.
Watching the fan cams is quite amazing. And she has like 3 or 4 costume changes because of course she does. It's
Yeah,
Beyonce.
Of course, yeah. We would expect nothing less.
But because so much of her show was referencing the college culture at HBCUs, I guess this was sort of a theme with her because she also announced that she's donating $100,000 in scholarship money to 4 HBCUs: Tuskegee University, Bethune-Cookman, Xavier University of Louisiana, and Wilberforce University.
Let me ask a question. Is she donating $100,000 total or $100,000 to each?
$100,000 total.
Wow. Okay.
So yes, it's $25,000 to each, and she also had like I don't know about her dancers, but I know in the band, the marching band, was actually students from HBCUs playing in that band. So she definitely wanted to bring in this whole HBCU culture, even though I'm pretty sure she didn't actually go to college, but she is from the South, and so this was probably something she grew up experiencing a lot.
Sure. No, that's awesome. That's a really great tribute. I like it. Have you ever been to Coachella?
I have not, no.
Is it something you'd want to go to?
I'm not a big festival person, so like it sounds really cool, but at the same time I'm like, yeah, after about the first couple of hours I probably want to probably not be there anymore. And it sounds like Beyonce's thing just by itself was several hours.
Right.
So it would be like,
I need some water and some sunscreen
and a chair to sit.
Everyone here is dressed kind of weird.
It's just like, yeah, and then I'd be like, can I just show up for the Beyonce thing? But if you don't show up early enough, you're not going to probably get a good view of Beyonce. So you probably needed to be there several hours beforehand
right.
to see her properly.
Staking your claim. And if you've listened to any of the podcasts that Stacey and I host, you know we're both tiny little bits of introverts. So like large crowds, not really our thing.
Yeah. Like I know people are like, oh my God, I still want to go to the concert and see them live. And I'm like, but why? Because it'll be noisy and you'll be standing the whole time. Can't you just wait for the concert film? Because that gets you a much better view. Like the camera can actually zoom in on it.
I don't mind concerts. I'm not a like down in the front in the mosh pit kind of, I prefer actually sitting in my seat.
Right.
Even if it's nosebleed seats, I don't mind that. It's so long as I'm not being smashed by people.
But along with the HBCUs, Beyonce also had a lot of African-American culture just in general in her show, which her mother actually made a comment that she wasn't sure that people would get it. And Beyonce responded that at this point in my life and my career, I have a responsibility to do what's best for the world and not what is most popular. Which, bravo for her.
Yeah.
Because, and again, first woman of color to headline Coachella, so you probably do want to make a statement about that in your show. Like, not just, oh, this is any sort of other thing.
Right.
And interestingly, that she was actually supposed to headline Coachella last year, but had to pull out because she was pregnant.
Right.
But I think even if you don't know a lot about let me rephrase that. Even if you are African American, I think there would have been some things that people might not have gotten in the show just based off of their age. Because she did bring in a lot of different older songs that are just like...
Older songs as in like... older than like Motown? What are we talking about here?
Probably not older than Motown, but older than Beyonce herself.
Okay,
so like songs from the 70s or whatever. That if you've never heard them before, like there was one part where she evidently sang "Lift Every Voice and Sing," and that some people thought that was like her showing a sneak peek of her new single or something.
Oh my!
And it's just like that's a well-known song. But if you don't know it, that's fine. That's okay. And that there were a lot of songs were played or were at least referenced musically that aren't just Beyonce songs.
Right.
So if you don't know those songs, there was probably quite a bit that was just like, is this her or who? What is this? Is this a new song?
Right.
Have I somehow missed an album in Beyonce's back catalog and I'm failing as a fan right now? Like, what's going on here?
Right. But, now I have "Lift Every Voice and Sing" stuck in my head. Don't worry, I won't sing it, but I'm singing it in my head right now.
Lift every imagination and sing. I don't even know what that would be. Lift every inner monologue and sing.
That's right.
But that she was trying very much to make a statement, and in her her sweatshirt that she wore for most of the HBCU section, I guess I'll say
segment, yeah,
she actually had the letters for a sorority that she's started, Beta Delta Kappa.
Oh, I did not know she started a sorority.
Well, and I'm a little confused because I kept saying that she started the sorority, but I'm like, did she just start it for the show, or is this an actual real sorority at colleges now? Because you imagine that would really quickly gain a lot of members
to be in the Beyonce sorority. Yeah.
But I think also, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say those letters also refer to her initials, I think.
Say what they were again?
Beta Delta Kappa.
Okay.
Which is BDK.
Yeah.
And Beyonce something Knowles. And I want to say, is it Darion? Because that was what her fashion line was.
That's her
called.
Fashion line, right? Let's look up her middle name.
Because that was what her mother's grandmother or something's maiden name was
her
Darion.
Middle name is Giselle.
Okay, then I'm wrong. But yeah, that was my thought when I first saw that the sorority was called Beta Delta Kappa. I was like, oh, it's referencing her initials. No, it's not. Sorry.
No, but it was a good guess. I like it.
It was. What that would have been Beta Gamma Kappa, I guess, if we wanted to do that. Sorry, I did not join a sorority in college, so I don't know anything about that whole culture. But it was very interesting to see other things that came up in the show, like, well, there was the band, of course, and a lot of the, like with the body call and response with the dancers, and then they had the, I'm not sure what they're called, the band leaders or whatever, who confused me even in the movie Drumline, because I'm just like, you're not like actually leading the band musically, but you kind of lead them onto the field and dance around, but I'm not sure what you do.
Right.
But to have those involved. And yeah, it was very interesting to watch, but I think a lot of things went over a good amount of the people's head, especially at Coachella, which is not necessarily the festival for a lot of R&B, hip hop, older African American music.
Right.
But Beyonce, being the first woman of color, definitely made a statement.
Okay, I just looked it up. ABC News. This is from ABC News. Okay, so the Greek letters read in English as B-A-K or back. Fans believe it could mean that Beyonce is saying after last year she's back, literally. Well, maybe. Another fan theory is that the B and K stand for her initials. The delta symbol in the middle, which is the Greek letter meaning change, appears to mimic the rock hand symbol, which she often holds up, paying homage to Rockefeller Records, the record label her husband founded. That one makes more sense than back.
Yeah, it kind of does in back.
I don't know. It doesn't. This doesn't actually reference that Beyonce specifically explained it, but there's a good fan theory for you.
Yes. And also, she had a lot of dancers, like a lot beyond just her regular set of however many women. There were a number of men, including Les Twins, came back and performed with her, and they're very famous for being on her several tours, I think, with her. But then also had several parts where there was stepping. Do you know what stepping is? The sort of stomping, clapping thing that also happens a lot at HBCUs.
Right.
So she definitely sat down with, and there's sort of behind the scenes pictures where she's sitting with the person who created the costumes, definitely sat down and thought about sort of every aspect of the show.
Right.
And and it wasn't just, okay, what's my set list and what it's going to be like, but very specifically saying, I want to say this, and this with whatever we're doing here.
Right. Yeah. And I'm looking through here, and in addition to the HBCUs and Lift Every Voice and Sing, she quotes Malcolm X throughout the performance. She has some Nina. Is it Nina or Nina Simone?
I want to say it's Nina.
I think so. Nina Simone. She's got she sampled some of her work. So yeah, she really did do a lot of background work in putting clearly there's a lot of thought that she put into this performance. Yeah,
and in her third, I think it's her third costume set, she's wearing this black thing that's got a sort of shield on it, and it's got several symbols like the raised fist that you saw the two men do during the 1968 Olympics, and a Black Panther, obviously, for the Black Panther Party. So yeah, everything was completely thought out with Beyonce's set list, and people responded as you kind of just expect them to with Beyonce, but also really in applause of the fact that she took this moment when she's, making history, being the first woman of color, to make a statement about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Good job, Beyonce. Nicely done.
Bravo. So we're going to take a short break. Stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Social Media News Podcast.
always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
Welcome back. You're listening to the GSMC Social Media News Podcast. And today we're talking about a number of really amazing firsts. Earlier we talked about Beyonce being the first woman of color to headline Coachella. And now we're talking about Kendrick Lamar, who won a Pulitzer Prize.
I heard about that.
For his album Damn. And it's the first, I think it's the first one to win the music Pulitzer that's not like jazz or classical music.
Right. That's amazing.
When I first heard this, I was like, I didn't know Pulitzers even gave prizes for music. I knew it was for like writing and reporting, and that was all I thought about it. Mm-hmm. But the fact that there is music, then of course you do expect, oh yes, it would be for more sort of quote unquote classical styles, like jazz and classical.
Right.
Things that you know, people can definitely go into musical critique on. But to go for a hip hop album, you know, seems a little not strange, but just you it's not surprising that this hasn't happened before.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think actually Keith, who hosts our entertainment podcast, I think he talked about this on the entertainment podcast also.
Oh,
so,
well, yes.
Not that we can't talk about it here. I'm just saying.
It was big news.
It is big news. I mean, I didn't even realize like you that there was a Pulitzer for music. I guess it makes sense, but to have it win, for something that's not more traditional.
Right.
But it also makes sense. I mean, really good rap lyrics tell a great story.
Right. And Kendrick Lamar is considered to be one of the greatest right now. And there was all that hubbub, I think both the previous Grammys and the Grammys before when he didn't win, where there was the one where Macklemore won Best Rap Album over him, and even Macklemore was just like, what is this? This is crazy. And then when Bruno Mars, I think, won Album of the Year over him, and people were just like, seriously? Like, really? But Pulitzer, because it's Pulitzer, in announcing why Kendrick Lamar's album Damn won, they called it a virtuosic song collection unified by its vernacular authenticity and rhythmic dynamism that offers affecting vignettes capturing the complexity of modern African-American life.
What?
Doesn't that just sound like such a Pulitzer thing? I was like, man, that was really
There was a lot of syllables in that statement.
What did you just say? So, and this, I actually kind of had to go to a different article to explain that quote to me, but that basically, because his album Damn is really speaking about African American life as it is right now, that's why it's such a great album, and then that's why it won the Pulitzer. And it's almost, in the way that I only thought Pulitzers were for writing and reporting, it's like almost musical reporting of what African American life is like now today. So I think that's what that whole really flowy, wordy quote was saying, is that it's saying what's true about African American life right now in music form, and so here's your award. Something like that.
Something like that. Okay.
And the Pulitzer, interestingly, it's this really famous award, but it's not actually I think the winners get like $15,000 and a trophy, which doesn't seem like a lot for such a famous award, Right.
And probably doesn't seem a lot to someone like Kendrick Lamar.
Right.
I mean, your average journalist, I don't think makes as much as someone like Kendrick Lamar. So it might mean a little bit more to them. That's probably pocket change.
I think more for Kendrick Lamar and just for the hip hop community in general, it's the fact that hip hop is now being recognized as a legitimate music form and not just, some street thing that what was it? I want to say it was Run DMC when they did their first album. They couldn't find a record company to produce it because everyone thought it would only last like a summer.
Right.
That this was just a trend that was going to go by, so we're not even going to bother to produce a record for this.
Yeah, how's that working out for you, music execs?
It did really well, didn't it? But then also, sort of like Beyonce being the first woman of color to headline Coachella, that part of the complaint that's been happening in the past few years with hip hop is that the people who sort of started it don't win the awards. Like Macklemore, when he won, I believe it was a Grammy. When Macklemore won the Grammy over Kendrick Lamar, that it's like, oh, okay. So, not to get into race here, but that the white person can win it even though it's traditionally a African-American music style.
Right.
That it only gets applauded when non-African Americans do it. Mm-hmm. And so Kendrick Lamar winning the Pulitzer saying, no, not only is the music style good, but yes, actually, African Americans have been doing this for a while and they do it well, so let's award that.
Right. Let's recognize it and honor it. Yep. Agreed.
I mean,
because my opinion counts.
Right, exactly. You were on the Pulitzer board, weren't you?
Totally.
You were like the deciding vote, and you wrote the.
And I was like, Kendrick Lamar, dang it, not this other guy over here who wrote that article, whatever.
Or that silly jazz album that we were thinking about.
Right.
You wrote the deciding opinion.
I am a terrible, terrible person, and I don't like jazz. No, okay, that's not true. I like some jazz. I just don't like improvisational jazz because it does. I'm impressed by the talent that it takes to do it, but it's just too random for me. So sorry, people who love jazz. I'm so sorry.
I don't like jazz in general. I also am somewhat impressed by the that one.
Yep.
In the same way I'm impressed by tap dancing when they can do that just by listening and not have it already planned out.
Right.
And can go back and forth. I'm like, that is amazing and requires some major skill. But I don't want to buy this record.
And the fact that they can do it together.
Yes.
It's not just one person improvising, but they're all playing and improvising together, and it makes sense. But no, it gets a little too random for me.
Right. Like I just recently watched La La Land. Have you seen it?
I have not. I keep meaning to.
So in the movie, Emma Stone wants to be an actress, and Ryan Gosling is a jazz musician, and he's a very traditional jazz musician. He only likes traditional jazz. He doesn't like all the newfangled jazz. And he takes her to a jazz club to explain why jazz is cool, because she, like me, is like, I hate jazz. and he's explaining how the musicians, sort of take over each to get their own sort of solo spot without having that planned out ahead. And when he's explaining it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is really cool. I still don't want to go to a jazz club. I apologize. If I was in that movie, that relationship quickly would have ended.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I have a friend who actually plays jazz, and he's very good. But I'm like, I know you're good, and I know this is good. I just can't get into it.
Yeah. I apologize, all jazz lovers and
me too.
previous Pulitzer jazz winners.
Please don't hate us.
We're going to take a short break and hopefully come back, and you will still be here. So stay tuned.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back. You're listening to the GSMC Social Media News Podcast, and today we're talking about a number of firsts. And this is not like a first, but this is the first for a while, in that an American woman won the Boston Marathon for the first time since 1985.
That's a while, yeah.
Yes. So when I first heard this, I thought I read the title of the article wrong, and so I thought it meant like a woman won the whole marathon, and that's why it was such a thing. She won the women's division of the marathon, but it's the first time an American woman has won the women's division.
Okay.
Since 1985, it's usually won by foreign runners.
Okay.
It took me a moment. I was like, what?
Have you seen the story on the first woman to run in the Boston Marathon?
Yes, and the guy tried to grab her number off.
Right, and people were trying to shove her off the course, and I mean, come on, guys, really? You're that threatened?
Seriously, like, she can't run because why?
Yeah. How do her girl parts prohibit her from running?
She physically obviously can run.
Right.
I don't understand. And she was only able to sign up because her name, I think her name sounded male or something, or she used her initial. I can't remember.
Right.
And so when they saw it, they didn't think, oh, that's a woman. And that was how she was able to even get a number and sign up. And then, didn't have to show up till the day of.
Right.
So they didn't see her. But yeah, the organizer actually tried to, and she had several guys, and they clearly kind of knew this was going to happen because this was a plan for several guys who were running with her to run around and protect her.
Right.
Because the dude actually tried to grab her number, get off my course. I'm just like,
chill out.
Really?
Yeah.
But anyways, this woman, Desiree Linden, this was her 6th attempt to win the Boston Marathon. And she actually, this is the amazing part for me because just anyone who wants to run a marathon.
Let alone multiple marathons.
Right. Bravo to you. That maybe would be a bucket list for if I was crazy or just, suddenly changed my whole lifestyle. And even then I'm like, yeah, maybe walk the marathon more so than running it. But she actually paused mid-race to wait while fellow American, I want to say this is Shalane Flanagan took a bathroom break and then still came back and actually won the whole thing.
Wait, okay, so you pause while your friend goes to the bathroom.
Right.
Awesome. Nice solidarity there. How does the friend feel when you win? I mean, she paused and waited for you. Then did she just race ahead of you later?
Yeah, so
she must have.
evidently when she paused, she had kind of given up at that point. And was like, oh, there's no point. So I'll just wait for, whatever, take the bathroom and then go on. And then if our running paces are different, she just went ahead and that's fine. Okay. And then went and won. But I really loved the reactions on Twitter for this because there were sort of two of them. There was a lot of, I'm not crying, you're crying.
Yes.
While watching this thing.
How did that phrase become a thing?
I don't even remember. But yeah, that's always, my favorite is it's Dusty, which comes from another podcast. I'm not crying, it's just Dusty. It's Dusty in the room.
Yeah.
So when they say, when people are talking about, it's like, oh yeah, I was watching something and it got a little dusty. And you immediately know what that means. But another one was that her husband's reaction was actually super awesome because when she finished, she's of course crying. But both her husband and her coach were also crying. Aww. And I really loved the Twitter reactions with the husband of I think someone posted I hope one day I can find a man who looks at me achieving my goals the way Desiree Linden's husband looks at her achieving her goals, or otherwise I don't want him.
Nice.
And hashtag couple goals came up a lot. And I'm just like,
right. Yeah,
actually that was because he again, speaking back to the first woman to even run and wasn't, approved of.
Right.
Now we're getting to, hey, the guy is totally fine sitting on the sidelines watching his wife do this amazing thing and sobbing when she does it.
That's awesome.
We've come quite a bit.
And they didn't announce her as
Mrs. So-and-so.
Yeah, so-and-so's wife won the Boston Marathon.
She's
she
her
got
own
her own
person.
name. Yeah. Excellent.
And it was if you watch the video, he runs up and hugs her, but then he's fine to kind of step back and let her have her moment as she's being interviewed or whatever.
I love this man.
Right? I'm not crying. You're crying.
No.
You're crying while watching her husband.
I'm totally crying. I'll admit to it. I love this man. I don't even know him or what his name is.
I forget.
I believe Mr.
His
Linden.
last name is also Linden.
I'm just going to call him Mr. Linden, whether that's his last name or not.
You're Desiree Linden's husband. You're Mr. Linden.
Mr. Desiree Linden.
Oh yeah. Well,
I love you.
It was a really sweet moment, and you could tell obviously after 6 attempts and the fact that she paused for the bathroom break because she was like, yeah, this is not going to work. Mm-hmm. How just shocked and amazed she was.
Right.
And it didn't even look close, although I have a hard time understanding the marathon because people come in at different times.
Yeah.
And the women and the men I think start at different times, so the winner can come in as there are still men crossing the line.
Right.
And so when you see bodies in the photograph, it's like what? Where are you in this whole pack? I don't quite understand. And also just, I mean, her time was like 2 hours, 39 minutes and 54 seconds. And I'm just like,
she ran 26 miles in 2 hours.
Right. That's all. But that's like 2.5 hours more than I ever want to run at any one time. Wow. So I'm just like, that would be way too much time to try and, if this is not your sport, to track who is wherever.
That's probably a normal number. I imagine. I'm like,
yeah. 26 miles in, wow, yeah, I know. A 26 miles period, I just like, oh my gosh.
26.2.
Yeah, because half a mile is 13.1, I think. Yeah, I don't. Bravo to just
it's
all
not
people.
The first 26. It's that last 0.2 that really gets you.
It's that last 0.2 that's super, super hard. And she did it, in the rain. It was definitely pouring down rain. It's just like, bravo.
Good job.
Desiree Linden. So on that note, we're going to end for today. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Social Media News Podcast.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Social Media Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.